time for some ranting from both of us. We're going to focus mostly on the Jags, since that's kind of the big news. But we'll talk about all the teams that scrubbed coaches and front office. Let's start though with breaking news this morning. The Tennessee Titans released 2-year GM Ran Carthon. Your thoughts on his departure?
I mean, he wasn't doing a good job with them. Like, I was not crazy about his free agency moves, and obviously, if he was the guy to say, let's get Will Levis and make the move, obviously he whiffed on the quarterback, and usually only get one chance at a quarterback if you're a GM. But what is odd is that the Titans are a team that has no direction right now. The Titans have no direction. They gave Carthon a 4-year extension last year, only to then fire him 1 year in. You're keeping Brian Callahan, which I'm not sure. Look, there are certain half measures you can take where it makes sense to keep one piece and not the other. But the Titans are squandering a golden opportunity because now you have an owner in Strunk that seems like she's very impulsive and just will fire people, like fire John Robinson after they got the number 1 seed at GM. And obviously, I think that was the right move, but fired Robinson. Then you fire Vrabel, and he's now a hot name, and everyone was like, Vrabel deserved to stay. And then this happens with Carthon. This is a place where there's not a lot of job security, and you have a half measure. And what's crazy, too, about Tennessee is that this could be the best vacancy in the NFL if they did it right. If you had an owner that wasn't a hothead, because you have the number 1 pick, you have cap space, you're going to get your quarterback in the draft. If you
funny how the AFC's full of hotheads and non-movers.
Yeah, like if you have the GM in place, if you do a cleaning of house and whatnot, you have the number 1 pick, you have the cap space, you can work with that, especially with new stadium and new facilities coming in. But
yeah,
they're kind of bungling this.
I agree. The half measure, it's like, if you're gonna clean house, do it all.
Yep.
Be like, all right, we're on the clock. We've got to find somebody. We got to find these 2 positions quick, because everything else will fall into place after those 2 positions are in. But another measure that really is coming out today is the Raiders. The Raiders took the measure, did what they needed to do, got rid of Pierce. Your thoughts on the Raiders measures and why they waited so long?
It's bizarre. It's bizarre because why let him conduct the presser yesterday? Why essentially use with your actions that he was safe and then do that? I think this is another one of those vacancies that I think is not attractive in the slightest bit because you don't have a quarterback. You're not in a position to get a quarterback. You have uncertainty with the ownership. You now have an owner that has had
a hothead.
A hothead, that an owner that you've had Gruden, McDaniels, Pierce, and now you're going to be on your 4th coach since 2021. You're going to be your 4th coach since 21.
He's had 4 coaches, and how many did his dad have in the first 10 years?
Yeah. He was the coach. His dad literally was the coach.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, I joke and say, why don't we just put all 30? Why don't we kick all 32 owners out and put their kids in charge?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, wait, the kids aren't doing so hot.
Yep. And the other thing too is that if you take that job in Vegas, okay, you're dead last in a division that had 3 teams in the playoffs and looks like everyone's got their franchise quarterback. So that is a tough spot to win in. And you keep Tom Telesco at GM, which, I mean, you're not firing a GM after 1 year, especially a guy that drafted a very good tight end, Brock Bowers, year 1. But at the same time, it's another one of those half measures. And it's one of those moves where you look at what Telesco did with the Chargers. He didn't do a whole lot. Had way too long of a leash there. It's not a good vacancy. There's a lot of – it's funny right now. There are so many jobs in the NFL that could be good vacancies that are just not. because one piece in particular, when it comes to the owner not doing what they should be doing.
Yeah. The Pats, another one, 5-year succession plan. You give up after a year. What's Kraft thinking?
He's thinking he screwed up and he should have gotten Vrabel last year. He's thinking that Vrabel was on the table last year and he threw it all away because he didn't want to put in the work because it was like, oh, I have a succession plan in place. And it obviously didn't work out. Kraft's also probably kicking himself that the Patriots do not have a top 3 pick because they won that game against Buffalo. And obviously Mayo was not working out. They had to fire him. It was one of those one and dones that I'm more than okay with because the culture of the team was really, really bad. But it's one of those where they never should have hired him in the first place. At least you can get why the Raiders hired Antonio Pierce. You can get why he had experience as a coordinator in college and the NFL. He was the interim. Guys liked playing for him. Yes, it turned out to be like a Ray Williamson kind of situation in Tampa in the early 90s, but you can at least understand why they hired him. I never understood why the Patriots just decided not to do a search and just went with Mayo and never looked back.
Yeah.
It didn't work out.
Yeah, and the culture up here where I'm at this season for the Patriots was awful. They knew that they had no shot. The fans knew they had no shot. No wonder the fans are booing the players, booing the ownership for their decisions, and the players are retaliating against it. No one wants to lose. No one's trying to lose, but when you're spoiled rotten like the Patriots have been, you expect to win.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Cowboys. They expect to win. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but they expect to win.
At the very least, you can have back-to-back season with top 5 draft picks. At the very least.
Yeah. This is a good comment. Not concerned about losing the top pick only because of Drake May. How you feel on this?
I mean, on one hand, I get it because you're not taking for a quarterback. You have the guy in place. It may look solid.
May does look solid.
Yeah. So it's not like the Giants where that win against the Colts screwed you out of a quarterback. But on the other hand, you got to think about, what did this win against Buffalo do? It didn't really do anything for you except hurt you. If you lost that game, you have the number 1 pick. Obviously, you're not taking a quarterback. But what you can do, you can trade that pick for a treasure trove, multiple first-round picks down the line. Heck, you could even trade back with the Giants at 3. You figure the Browns are taking a quarterback. The Giants would take a quarterback at 1, obviously. You trade back with the Giants, get multiple first-round picks, get a war chest of picks, and you still get the guy you want with on a lesser salary, too, because picks 1 and 2 are going to be quarterbacks and Warden Sanders in all likelihood. So it's one of those where that win was one of the most costly wins in NFL history.
Sanders being a second generation talent, how much is his dad in his ear saying, okay, we're going to talk to these, we're not going to talk to these?
I don't think it's that much. I think that's a bit overblown because I think the problem is that Deion knows, look, if Deion was if he was retiring after this year, if he was just a dad, that's one thing. But Deion, at the end of the day, is a coach at Colorado. And he knows that the way to recruit is to get people to the NFL.
To put more people in.
Yep. And if you start meddling with other teams and building bad relationships and saying, I'm not letting you go here, I'm not letting you go here, I'm not letting you go here, I'm going to butt in, all of a sudden, you lose, scouts stop coming to you, and you lose the connections, and you have a reputation. And I don't think recruits would necessarily take too kindly to that.
Right. But at the end of the day, you've also got someone like Deion saying, hey, let's go look at the transfer portal. Who can I steal from other schools? And then help them get those better picks.
Mm-hmm.
So the days of you having to go to an LSU or an Alabama or a Tennessee or an Ohio State to get those top picks is gone. I mean, the best players are coming out of smaller schools.
Yeah.
And the ones that are destroying the NFL's stat lines are not necessarily those blue chip players.
Yeah, I mean, you're still going to have the blue bloods and whatnot and the schools that produce more talent, but the top 10 picks, you figure 2 of them will be from Colorado, 1 will be from Boise, and 1's going to be from Arizona.
Yeah,
Like,
3 of the smallest schools.
Yeah, not exactly school like schools in like that have had success in our conferences, but not schools necessarily associate with like the Ohio States, the Penn States, the LSUs,
national championships.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not necessarily the Heisman winners anymore either are getting the looks that they were getting 10 years ago. You know, used to Heisman, oh, you're going to be in the top 3 guaranteed, if not number 1. And now it's like Heisman may go 5th. You know, there's better players out there, but because of their squad, maybe they weren't considered for that Heisman.
Yeah.
So
it's a little bit different because there's positional value too. If Travis Hunter was a quarterback, he's going number 1. I think it's more just positional value, but Heisman still means a lot to the draft, but it's not the end all be all necessarily. Otherwise, Tim Tebow would have been a tank for Tebow.
How, as much as Hunter and Sanders want to obviously go to the same place, play together, you know, how hard would it be for someone to say, no, I'm not interested?
I would be flabbergasted if Sanders and Hunter are playing at the same spot. Be flabbergasted. It would take a crazy trade up to be able to get Sanders and Hunter, and I don't know anyone's got the picks to do that.
Or the desperation to do it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe some desperation out there, but no, I don't think either one of those guys are going to want to go to those places that are that desperate. Other news coming out today is Derek Carr saying he will not take a pay cut for next season. Is this smart?
I mean, I get it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, he's human. At the end of the day, yes, someone, all right, take a pay cut for the betterment of the company. Most people are going to say no.
That company needs it.
Yep. Most people, especially after what we've seen as of late, most people are going to say no. So I don't blame Carr. I mean, he said he would restructure, but he wants his money.
Yeah, he wants his money.
It's not his fault.
He's no JJ Watt. He's no, that was one thing that everyone praised Watt for, was he was always willing to take a pay cut. Most of these guys aren't.
Yep.
And it's ironic that his name comes up, and as much as a Houston fan as I am, seeing what Carr's brother went through in Houston, knowing what Carr's brother went through in Houston, knowing that Carr doesn't want any part of what his brother went through in Houston, it makes sense. I want my money. Give me my money. I'm going to go play. And don't screw me over.
Yeah. I mean, he knows he's getting up there in age. He knows this is like his last chance to make a big amount of money, and why not? It's almost like in fantasy football, if you like make a trade and then the trade is terrible, it's like, hey, I'm like, can you give me something back? It's like, no, like you made this trade with me, like it's not my problem. Like, you gave me this money, I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah. Travis Hunter better as a receiver than or a back?
Oh, I think he's better as a cornerback. He's
much better as a back.
Yeah, way better as a cornerback. And the NFL knows that too. I mean, they'll have some package plays from a wide receiver, but they're going to play him at corner.
I mean, you look at Hunter, and it's like Hunter is this era's version of Sanders. Pure and simple. Sanders could play both sides of the ball. He mostly played defense, was excellent on defense. And I think that's really what Sanders groomed him to be, was Sanders 2.0.
Yeah.
and it's worked out. Any other major moves in the NFL since conclusion of Week 18?
Besides the mess down in Duval,
Which we'll get to.
yeah. Besides that, I mean, besides just some like positional firings, OCs, DCs, Bengals fire their DC, which makes sense. Seahawks, I'm a bit surprised they fired Grubbin for 1 year. Colts fire Gus Bradley, which I hate. I think he should have gotten a lifetime extension. But
You and I both.
yeah. But other than that, I mean, this was a relatively quiet Black Monday. A relatively quiet Black Monday period.
Do you see more coming out as the week progresses? And owners finally.
The wild card in all this is Tennessee. Not Tennessee. Dallas. That's what I meant. Dallas is the wild card in all this. Because who knows when Mike McCarthy, his contract's up. Now, what's interesting is that the Cowboys refuse to let him interview with the Bears, which I think is wrong. I think that is wrong that they are not letting McCarthy interview with the Bears if he's got literally like 5 days left on his contract. Like and you don't haven't made a decision by that point. Like let him either do the decent thing and fire him or re-sign him, but don't
leave him in limbo.
Yeah, don't keep him in limbo.
Don't leave fans in limbo either, because it's like, okay, maybe McCarthy's not the guy and we move on and we can start moving on now. Why are you going to make us wait? But again, Jerry Jones has probably gone into his cryo coma, so who knows what Jerry Jones is thinking. Yeah, the Cowboys just, don't get me wrong. Being from Texas, being from the Waco area, and living but halfway between Dallas and Houston, you love both. You love both sides. Football is football in Texas, and football is king. So, you support everyone. But I look at what Dallas did under its first owner, had one head coach and was super inventive, invented the 4-3, invented all these different things that the Cowboys have invented. And then they get a new owner and they've had nothing but 3-year deals, mostly 3 to 5 year deals
for the most part
with coaches, and they can't keep a coach. I mean, Jerry Jones doesn't know how to keep a coach, and when he has a good coach, he runs him off. I mean, we see what happened with Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson, excellent coach. The game passed him by because everyone figured out what the heck he was doing during the draft. But now it's like Jerry Jones just is treading water, and he may be bailing water by the end of this offseason if he doesn't do something different.
One of those where you wonder what the heck is happening. It's really one of those where you wonder who's
running the show.
Who's running the show? It's insane to me. Trent Baalke has gotten 3 top 5 picks in the last 5 years. He's gotten 3 top 5 picks in the last 5 years.
That's not good.
No, not good at all. He has made enemies out of everyone. Somehow he keeps surviving. And if the Jags just clean house, they'd have the number 1 vacancy in the NFL, without a doubt. You got your quarterback, you got your cap space, no state income tax. You're in a good spot.
And you've got a decent team around you too. You're not really, I mean, you're not a top tier team, but you're mid-pack, upper mid-pack team that can compete.
Mm-hmm.
You just need a few pieces, and a good coaching staff and a good GM fixes that.
Yeah. No, it's not a horrible vacancy, but the problem is that Baalke, he's got 1 year left on his contract. And then what's even more bizarre about it is that Shad Khan's making these decisions when he's not showing up to the games. He's not making his face known in the city unless he wants money. Like Tony's
not either.
Yeah, he's pretty absent. He's pretty absent right now. And he's making these decisions, I think, because he's just lazy and doesn't want to conduct a search. But then he says that he said yesterday that if someone convinces him that Bulky's not the guy, he'll fire him. If there's a coach that comes in and says, "Yeah, I don't want to work with Bulky," and I can give you a good reason why, he'll fire him. He said this on the in the press conference with Bulky there.
Which you did not cover, which that is something you actually didn't cover.
No, because that was afterwards. That was after I recorded the video. They did the press. It was literally like someone asked, like, if a coach flat out says, "I will not work with Bulky," and provides a plan to you of how like he wants things structured. Because right now the structure is that the coach will not report to Bulky, which doesn't make a lot of sense because again, Khan doesn't know anything about football. He's pretty absentee, and you want the GM and the head coach on the same page. But the Khan said, "Yeah, I'd fire Bulky," while Bulky was on the call.
Of these names that Khan is looking at to replace Peterson, which ones are you wanting the most?
I mean, Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen are the top two. They're definitely the top two. And if we get one of those two, I guess it all works out. Because, look, as much as I don't like Bulky, he did do a decent job drafting this past year. But, I mean,
do you think Ben would give Khan that reason to get rid of Bulky, though?
I would hope. I mean, he saw the Lions play the Jaguars, and the Lions won 52-6. I mean, I would hope. But then again, the Jags aren't even interviewing Mike Vrabel, who, I mean, I'm sure he's going to New England, but the guy that was 8-4 against the Jaguars, he's interviewing with every team but the Jaguars. It feels like not even going to bother giving him a light of day.
Joe Brandy a surprise on this list?
Joe Brandy, not so much. Not so much. I feel like he's the number 3 candidate for a lot of people.
I know you're glad to not see Bobby on this list.
Yes, I am. I am very glad.
Although I would be laughing to the bank, but then again, I do want the Jags to do good. Do you think other owners are getting into Khan's head about how he's running his organization?
No, I don't think other owners are. I think other owners love this. Other owners don't want to help each other out as long as they're making money. Khan's making the league a lot of money. The revenue in Jacksonville's gone up. Like, he's the perfect owner for.
He's got a new stadium coming.
Yeah, it's like you got a new stadium. You got money coming in. He's willing to play games in London. Like, he's increasing the valuation of the Jaguars. He's not winning. He's a perfect owner in the sense, like, as a competitor, it's like, all right, you know what? Like, the guy's making money, but he's not doing anything.
Kind of like the O'Neills were for a few years with Jerry Jones. They were at each other's throat, but they loved each other because they made each other money.
Yeah. It's not like Dan Snyder where he was stealing money from people. Like, Khan's not involved in any controversies. Khan's just to himself.
Yeah. Do you think if Khan was to put the effort he puts into Fulham into the Jags would be a much better team?
I'm not sure how much effort he really puts into Fulham. I think he just found the right person. He after a decade finally hired the right person and actually worked out. And he's just pretty hands off and let him do whatever he wants.
But that had a lot to do with Tony helping with finding that person, right?
Yeah. It's true because like Shad is very calm, very relaxed, very patient, but doesn't know a lot about sports. And Tony is very knowledgeable about sports, but he's also a hothead.
Which I've seen on several occasions.
Yeah.
But
I don't know which one I'd rather have in Jacksonville. I mean, I say it can't get worse than Shad, but his brother or his son, I don't know. I honestly don't know. It could be worse.
I mean, with Tony focused on AEW and the wrestling and sports entertainment, of course, part of that sports entertainment deal was that he would never compete against the NFL directly, meaning never Monday night shows or blatant or going up against them a marquee game, which is a big reason they do pay-per-views on Saturdays.
Yeah.
But do you see his involvement with AEW keeping him maybe more like his father of being a hands-off owner? Or do you see him maybe turning AEW over if he has to take control of the Jags?
I think AEW is his baby. I think that's his baby. I think that's what he's passionate about most. So I'm not sure. He might try and juggle two things. I mean, he tried juggling three things before. I think he could think he
because he was trying to juggle Fulham too.
Yeah. Finally went a bit hands off with that, but we'll see. I'm not like